RAF Woodhall Spa, Lincolnshire, May 7th, 1944, 800 hours. The morning sun barely penetrates the thick curtains of the operations room at RAF Woodhall Spa. Wing Commander Leonard Cheshire stands before 16 aircraft commanders, his hands clasped behind his back, his expression carved from stone. The men seated before him, veterans of the Dambusters raid, survivors of the Dortmund Ems Canal disaster, shift uncomfortably in their metal folding chairs. They've seen this look before. It means something extraordinary is coming. "Gentlemen," Cheshire begins, his voice cutting through the cigarette smoke that hangs in the air like morning fog. "As of this moment, you are screened from all combat operations." The room erupts. Flight Lieutenant Bob Knights leans forward, his weathered bomber jacket creaking. Squadron leader Les Munro exchanges glances with the pilot beside him. Screened? Now? With the invasion everyone knows is coming? Cheshire raises one hand. Silence falls like a hammer. "You will not fly again until the Allies invade the continent." He pauses, letting the weight of those words settle. Outside, you can hear the distant rumble of Merlin engines being tested on the flight line. Inside, nobody breathes. When that moment comes, your task will be to deceive the enemy as to the true location of our landings. You will create, gentlemen, an invasion fleet that does not exist. Flight Lieutenant John Bell, bomb aimer on Bob Knights's crew, feels his stomach tighten. His Lancaster DV-385 coded KCA carries the name Thumper Mach 3 painted in white letters beneath the cockpit. He's dropped tallboy bombs on concrete U-boat pens, watched them punch through 15 feet of reinforced steel. But this is something else entirely. Group Captain Ralph Cochrane steps forward from the shadows. His uniform is immaculate, his face grave. "What Wing Commander Cheshire is describing is Operation Taxable," he says. "You will fly modified Lancasters carrying expanded crews of 14 men. Your aircraft will be fitted with the GH radio navigation system. You will drop window, metallic strips cut to precise specifications, in patterns so exact that German radar operators will believe they are tracking a massive invasion fleet approaching the French coast near Le Havre and Cap d'Antifer. The intelligence officer unfurls a map across the briefing table. Red lines trace paths across the English Channel. Blue crosses mark radar stations along the Normandy coast. "The real invasion," he continues, tapping a section of coastline labelled Sword Beach, Juno Beach, Gold Beach, will occur here. Normandy. But we need the Germans looking here. His finger slides north, toward the Pas-de-Calais, toward phantom armies that exist only in their imagination and on their radar screens. Cheshire's jaw tightens. "You will train for this operation under conditions of absolute secrecy. You will not discuss it with your families. You will not discuss it with other crews. You will log your training flights as special local flying and nothing more." He looks each man in the eye. "The success of the invasion depends on making the Germans believe our lies. Thousands of lives depend on your precision. Perhaps the outcome of the war itself." Flight Lieutenant Knights thinks of his navigator, his wireless operator, his flight engineer. 14 men crammed into a Lancaster designed for 7. He thinks of flying circuits over the channel in darkness, dropping bundles of aluminum-coated paper while German night fighters prowl the skies. He thinks of radar screens lighting up with false targets, of German commanders scrambling panzer divisions toward empty beaches. "Your Lancasters are being modified as we speak," the engineering officer announces. "We're cutting holes in the nose sections, installing chutes for window deployment. Each aircraft will carry hundreds of bundles, thousands of individual strips, each 27 centimeters long, cut to half the wavelength of German Würzburg radar." He holds up a sample bundle. In the fluorescent light, the metallic strips shimmer like silver rain. "You'll drop these at 15-second intervals, flying precise circuits that advance toward the French coast at exactly 7 knots, the speed of a naval convoy." Someone in the back row whistles softly. Another pilot mutters something about flying in elongated ovals while dropping tinfoil and hoping the Germans don't notice. But Cheshire doesn't smile. "You will notice," he says quietly, "that none of you will be told the invasion date until the night before." "You will maintain combat readiness, you will perfect your navigation, and you will wait." The briefing ends. The pilots file out into the May sunshine, blinking like men emerging from caves. On the hard stand, ground crews swarm over Lancaster DV-385, Thumper MiG-3. Beneath the fuselage, below the code letter A, workers are installing a metal chute for window dispensing. The aircraft looks alien now, modified for a mission that defies everything these men have learned about bombing. No high explosives, no target markers, just metallic strips and mathematical precision, and the hope that German radar operators will see what isn't there. Wing Commander Cheshire watches from the operations room window. He knows what his pilots don't yet understand. They are about to become magicians, conjuring armies from aluminum and audacity. And if they fail, if their circuits drift even slightly off course, if their timing falters by even 30 seconds, then thousands of soldiers hitting the real beaches will pay the price in blood. He lights another cigarette and returns to his maps. There is so much still to plan, so much that can go wrong. The Secret RAF Woodhall Spa, May 8, June 4th, 1944. The training begins before dawn. Flight Lieutenant Bob Knights climbs into the cockpit of Thumper MiG-3 to find his aircraft transformed. 2 navigators now occupy the navigation station, their charts spread across every available surface. Behind them, 2 additional crew members crouch near the newly installed window chute, bundles of metallic strips stacked in precise rows. The Lancaster feels crowded, heavy, unbalanced. "Engines start in 5 minutes," the flight engineer calls. Knights runs through his pre-flight checks: fuel, full tanks, magnetos tested, trim tabs set. The 4 Merlin engines cough to life one by one, their thunder rolling across the Lincolnshire countryside. In the right seat, his second pilot adjusts his harness. 2 pilots, rotating flying duties because the circuits they'll fly require such precision that no single man can maintain concentration for hours. The tower clears them for takeoff. Thumper MiG-3 rolls down the runway, heavier than usual with its expanded crew and window cargo. Knights feels the aircraft resist, sluggish before finally lifting free. He banks east toward the North Sea, climbing to 3,000 feet. Behind him, the window operators begin their rehearsal. Open bundle, position at chute, drop. 15 seconds. Open next bundle, drop. The rhythm is relentless, mechanical, precise. "Navigator, give me a course," Knights calls into the intercom. The primary navigator's voice crackles back. "Heading 120, speed 160 knots. We'll fly toward the coast for 150 seconds, then turn and fly away for 130 seconds. Repeat continuously." Knights banks into the pattern. The second navigator monitors the GH equipment, its green cathode ray screen showing their position relative to ground stations. The margin for error is 0. If they drift even a quarter mile off course, the illusion collapses. Below, the North Sea stretches grey and infinite. Knights imagines German radar operators watching their scopes 200 miles south, seeing the window cloud edging toward France like a fleet advancing at 7 knots. He imagines officers in bunkers calculating vectors, scrambling to artillery positions, preparing to repel an invasion that exists only as aluminum echoes in the electromagnetic spectrum. By mid-May, the crews of 617 Squadron have flown 43 training sorties. Wing Commander Cheshire watches from the control tower as his Lancasters practice their intricate dance, 16 aircraft flying in elongated circuits 2 miles apart, advancing in perfect synchronization. Each aircraft must merge seamlessly into the pattern. Any gap, any hesitation, and the radar picture fragments. The Germans will see not a fleet, but scattered anomalies. They will investigate. They will discover the truth. At RAF Methwold, 50 miles south, a different kind of training unfolds. Wing Commander Royd Fenwick Wilson stands on the tarmac watching 6 short Sterling bombers lumber into formation. His 218 Gold Coast Squadron has been selected for Operation Glimmer, the sister deception targeting the Pas-de-Calais. The Sterlings are older, slower than the Lancasters of 617 Squadron, but they carry the same GH navigation equipment, the same window chutes, the same expanded crews of 13 men. Fenwick Wilson is Canadian, a veteran of 10 years RAF service. His organizational skills are legendary. His command style, direct, demanding, uncompromising, has transformed 218 Squadron from a struggling unit into one of Bomber Command's most reliable. But even he feels the weight of what's coming. His squadron is smaller than 615. There are no relief aircraft, no reserves. His pilots will rotate in their seats, switching positions mid-flight to maintain the concentration required for hours of circuit flying. A civilian joins him on the tarmac. Dr. Sebastian Pease, physicist from the Operational Research Section, carries a leather briefcase filled with calculations. "The deception must be flawless," Pease says, watching the Sterlings practice their patterns. "Every drop must occur at exactly the right interval." Every turn must maintain precise altitude and heading. If the radar picture shows anomalies, if our fleet accelerates or decelerates unnaturally, German operators will know something is wrong. Fenwick Wilson lights his pipe. "My pilots are the best in Bomber Command." he says quietly. They'll deliver your illusion. But in his mind he's calculating risks. Night fighters. Flak. The possibility that German radar has already detected their training flights over the North Sea. The chance that the invasion will be compromised before it even begins. Meanwhile, at Portsmouth Naval Base, a different kind of phantom is taking shape. Lieutenant Commander William Rankin inspects 12 harbour defence motor launches lined up along the dock. These small wooden vessels, designated Special Task Force B, will form the naval component of Operation Glimmer. Each boat carries GH equipment, radio jamming gear, and something called a filbert balloon. Rankin watches as crewmen inflate one of the balloons. It rises 29 feet into the air, straining against its mooring cables. Inside the balloon's fabric envelope, a 9-foot radar reflector hangs like a mechanical heart. On German radar screens, this contraption will appear as a destroyer or cruiser. 12 of these balloons, properly spaced, will look like a battle group approaching the French coast. "It's absurd," one of Rankin's junior officers mutters, watching the balloon bob in the harbour breeze. "We're going to sail toward France, trailing balloons and dropping jamming foil, hoping the Germans think we're an armada." Rankin doesn't disagree, but he's read the intelligence reports. He knows about the fictional 1st United States Army Group, the phantom force of 40 divisions that Allied deception planners have convinced German high command is massing in southeast England, preparing to invade Calais. He knows about the fake radio traffic, the dummy landing craft, the double agents feeding false information to German intelligence. Operation Taxable and Operation Glimmer are just 2 threads in a massive tapestry of lies, but they are critical threads. If the Germans believe these phantom fleets, if they rush reinforcements toward Calais and Cap d'Antifer instead of Normandy, then the real invasion might succeed. If not, if the deceptions fail, if German panzer divisions crush the landing forces on the beaches, then everything is lost. At Dover, Special Task Force A prepares for its role in Operation Taxable. 18 boats, a mix of Royal Navy harbour defence motor launches and RAF high-speed rescue pinnaces, undergo final modifications. These vessels will sail ahead of 617 Squadron's Lancaster bombers, towing radar-reflective balloons, broadcasting false radio traffic designed to mimic a naval convoy's communications chatter. The boats are small, vulnerable to the Channel's notorious weather. Their crews are volunteers who understand they may be sailing into a German trap. By early June, both air and naval forces have achieved operational readiness. The pilots of 617 and 218 squadrons can fly their window-dropping circuits blindfolded. The naval crews can inflate their filbert balloons and begin radio deception protocols within minutes. Wing commanders Cheshire and Fenwick Wilson have briefed their men on contingencies. What to do if intercepted by night fighters, how to respond if German E-boats appear, when to break off the operation if the weather deteriorates beyond acceptable limits. But still, nobody knows the invasion date. The pilots return to their quarters each night, wondering if tomorrow will be the day. They write letters home without mentioning their training. They play cards in the mess, drink warm beer, tell jokes to ease the tension. And they wait. In London, Supreme Commander Dwight Eisenhower studies weather reports and tide tables. In Berlin, Field Marshal Erwin Rommel inspects coastal defences and worries about phantom armies in England. And across the Channel, 156,000 Allied soldiers prepare to storm beaches that most of them will never leave alive. The pieces are moving. The deception is ready. Now everything depends on timing, weather, and the willingness of German commanders to believe a lie. The storm, RAF Woodhall Spa and RAF Methwold, June 5, 1944, 1800 hours. The briefing room door locks with a metallic click that echoes like a rifle bolt. Wing Commander Leonard Cheshire stands before his assembled crews, and this time there is no ambiguity in his expression. Flight Lieutenant Bob Knights sees it immediately. Tonight is the night. Around him, pilots straighten in their seats, navigators pull out fresh plotting boards, the wireless operators stop their nervous finger tapping. The room holds its breath. "Gentlemen," Cheshire says, and the word carries the weight of history, "tomorrow morning the Allied Expeditionary Force will land on the beaches of Normandy. Your mission tonight is to ensure that German forces are looking somewhere else." He pulls the cloth covering from the operations board. The map of the English Channel is marked with red lines, blue arrows, black crosses indicating German radar stations. Someone in the back row exhales slowly. This is real. This is happening. Outside, the wind has picked up. Dark clouds race across the Lincolnshire sky, driven by the same Atlantic storm system that nearly caused Eisenhower to postpone the entire invasion. The meteorological officer steps forward. "Weather over the Channel is marginal," he says bluntly. "Wind speeds 15 to 20 knots, gusting higher. Sea state 4 to 5. Cloud base at 800 feet, lowering to 500 over the French coast. Visibility 2 to 3 miles in rain." He doesn't have to say what everyone is thinking. These are the worst possible conditions for precision navigation. The intelligence officer takes over. German coastal radar network is fully operational. We've identified stations at Cap d'Antifer, Fécamp, and Le Havre that will track your approach. He points to markings on the map. These stations use Würzburg and Freya systems, operating at wavelengths we've specifically calibrated your window to counter. If you maintain precise intervals and altitudes, their operators will interpret your window clouds as large surface vessels advancing at convoy speed. Cheshire takes back the briefing. 16 Lancasters will participate in Operation Taxable. 3 additional aircraft will serve as airborne reserves, ready to merge into the formation if anyone experiences mechanical failure. He reads the crew assignments. Knight's Thumper Mach 3 will fly position 3 in the formation. Squadron Leader Les Munro in Lancaster, LM-482 coded KCW, will take position 7. Each aircraft will carry its expanded crew of 14 men and 4,000 bundles of window, nearly 2 tons of metallic strips per Lancaster. Timeline is as follows, the operations officer announces, reading from his clipboard. Special Task Force A departs Dover at 2100 hours. They will establish the initial radar signature using their filbert balloons and commence false radio traffic at 0100 hours. He traces their route on the map with a pointer. At 0200 hours, first wave of Lancasters reaches the operational area. You will begin window drops immediately, flying circuits that advance the apparent fleet toward Cap d'Antifer at 7 knots. The briefing continues with numbing technical detail. Altitudes: maintain 3,000 feet. Airspeed: 160 knots. Circuit duration: 4 minutes 40 seconds. 150 seconds toward the French coast, dropping window at 15-second intervals. Turn and 130 seconds away from the coast. Turn and repeat. Spacing between aircraft, exactly 2 miles, measured using GH navigation equipment. Any deviation will corrupt the radar picture. Any hesitation will reveal the deception. Flight Lieutenant John Bell, bomb aimer on night's crew, studies the timing charts. They'll be over the channel for 4 hours, flying repeated circuits in darkness and bad weather, with German radar tracking every move, and German night fighters potentially scrambling to investigate. 4 hours of absolute precision while dropping bundle after bundle of window through the nose chute. 4 hours during which any mistake could doom the invasion. "50 miles south, at RAF Methwold, Wing Commander Royd Fenwick Wilson delivers his own briefing to 218 Squadron. His 6 short Sterling bombers will execute Operation Glimmer, the sister deception targeting the Pas-de-Calais. Your operation is identical in concept but targets a different sector, Fenwick Wilson explains, his Canadian accent clipped and precise. German High Command expects the main invasion at Calais. We're going to reinforce that belief. Doctor, no? Sebastian Pease, the civilian physicist, emphasizes the stakes. Intelligence indicates that German 2nd Panzer Division and 116th Panzer Division are positioned inland from Calais, he says quietly. If Operation Glimmer succeeds, if these units are not redirected toward Normandy during the critical first hours, then the beachhead might hold. If they realize it's a deception and race south, he doesn't finish. He doesn't need to. Fenwick Wilson looks at each of his pilots. Unlike 617 Squadron, there are no reserve aircraft for Operation Glimmer. His 6 Sterlings must maintain the illusion without relief. His crews will rotate pilots mid-flight, one man taking the controls while the other rests for 20 minutes before switching back. It's exhausting, dangerous, and absolutely necessary. At Portsmouth, Lieutenant Commander William Rankin addresses the crews of Special Task Force B. "12 harbour defence motor launches rock gently in their berths, their filbert balloons deflated and secured on deck. We depart at 2200 hours, Rankin announces. Course is 165 degrees, speed 8 knots. We'll tow the balloons inflated at 0100 and commence jamming protocols simultaneously." He looks at the sky. Dark clouds are rolling in from the west. The channel is going to be rough. "Our role is to sell the illusion," Rankin continues. the aircraft drop window to create radar signatures. We provide the supporting details, radio chatter, electronic emissions, and the radar reflection patterns of capital ships. German operators are trained to look for these signatures. If everything aligns, if the window clouds match the balloon, signatures match the radio traffic, then they'll believe they're tracking a battle group approaching Calais. One of his junior officers raises a hand. "And if German E-boats or destroyers come to investigate, sir?" Rankin's expression doesn't change. "Then we scatter and hope the darkness hides us. Our boats are armed with machine guns, not torpedoes. We cannot engage enemy surface units and survive." At Dover, Special Task Force A receives similar instructions. Their mission is more exposed. They'll operate closer to Cap d'Antifer, where German coastal artillery can reach them if the deception is penetrated. The 18 boats, HDMLs and RAF pinnaces, are crewed by men who volunteered knowing the risks. As darkness falls, they cast off from the harbour one by one, their engines rumbling softly. The channel stretches before them, black and turbulent. Back at Woodhall Spa, the crews of 617 Squadron gather their equipment. Flight Lieutenant Knights pulls on his flight suit, checks his Mae West life vest, adjusts his oxygen mask. Around him, 13 other men prepare for a mission unlike anything they've trained for. The window operators, 2 men crouched in the nose, 2 more as reserves, practice their rhythm one more time. Open bundle, feed into chute, drop. 15 seconds, repeat. 4 hours of repetition while the aircraft buckets through storm clouds and German radar watches. Wing Commander Cheshire walks the flight line, inspecting each Lancaster. Thumper McThur gleams under the hangar lights, its window chute modification stark beneath the fuselage. Cheshire pauses beside Bob Knights. "Steady hands tonight," he says quietly. "The invasion depends on it." Knights nods. There's nothing more to say. Everything has been briefed, rehearsed, prepared. Now it's just execution. At 21:30 hours, the first Lancaster engines fire up. The sound rolls across the airfield like distant thunder. One by one, the bombers taxi to the runway. Thumper McThur lifts into the darkening sky, banking south toward the channel. Behind it, 15 more Lancasters follow in precise sequence. In the navigation stations, the GH equipment glows green. In the nose sections, men crouch beside pallets of window bundles. And on the French coast, German radar operators settle into their night shifts, unaware that the greatest deception in military history is about to unfold on their screens. The wind howls, the rain begins. And across the channel, 156,000 soldiers prepare to storm the beaches of Normandy. Everything now depends on aluminum strips and mathematical precision and the willingness of men to fly endless circuits in darkness while history pivots on their accuracy. The Ghost Armada is launching. May God and good navigation see them through. First contact English Channel, 12 miles north of Cap d'Antifer, June 6, 1944, 0037 hours, the lead boats of Special Task Force. A reached their muster point precisely on schedule. Lieutenant James Fawcett, commander of HDML 1387, checks his compass bearing against the GH navigation equipment installed in the cramped wheelhouse. Wind howls through the rigging. Waves crash over the bow, sending spray across the forward gun mount. The channel is angry tonight, fighting them with every swell. "All boats report position," Fawcett calls into the radio. One by one, the 18 vessels of Task Force A confirm arrival. 12 harbour defence motor launches and 6 RAF high-speed rescue pinnaces. They're scattered across a mile of black water, their hulls rising and falling in the heavy seas. Some crews are already sick, vomiting over the rails as their small boats pitch and roll. But they're here, they're on time. That's what matters. "Inflate the filberts," Fawcett orders. On the fantail of HDML 1387, 3 crewmen struggle with the balloon rigging. The inflation bottle hisses. Slowly, the 29-foot barrage balloon rises into the rain-swept darkness, its internal radar reflector swaying on suspension cables. To the crew, it looks absurd. A massive balloon bobbing above a wooden boat in the middle of a storm. But to German radar operators, if everything works as planned, it will appear as a destroyer or light cruiser. Across the task force, 11 more filbert balloons inflate and rise. The boats begin their approach, maintaining strict formation. Speed, 7 knots, the pace of a cautious invasion fleet navigating mined waters. Heading 172 degrees directly toward Cap d'Antifer. Behind them, the English coast has disappeared into rain and darkness. Ahead, somewhere beyond the storm, lies occupied France. At 0100 hours, the radio operators begin their deception protocols. Carefully scripted chatter crackles across maritime frequencies. Task Group 7-2, maintain formation, execute turn to heading 180 on my mark. The transmissions are timed, measured, deliberately imperfect. The kind of radio discipline a real naval force might employ approaching hostile shores. In German listening posts along the coast, operators lean closer to their receivers. British naval traffic, moving south. Encrypted, but the volume and frequency suggest something large. Lieutenant Fawcett watches his radar operator adjust the moonshine jamming equipment. The device begins broadcasting false returns, adding electronic noise to the radar signature created by the filbert balloons. The effect should be confusing, overwhelming, exactly what you'd expect if a fleet were employing countermeasures against coastal radar. "Remember," Fawcett tells his crew, "we're not trying to hide. We're trying to look like a fleet trying to hide. There's a difference." The weather worsens. Wave heights reach 6 feet, occasionally cresting to 8. HDML 1229, 300 yards to starboard, wallows in a trough. Its filbert balloon tears loose from one mooring cable and cants at a crazy angle. The crew struggles to secure it before the whole rig is lost. Other boats report equipment failures, water in the radio gear, balloons deflating, GH navigation sets producing erratic readings. But still, they maintain formation. Still, they push south toward France. Above them, invisible in the storm clouds, the first Lancasters of 617 Squadron arrive. Flight Lieutenant Bob Knights peers through the windscreen of Thumper Memk III, seeing nothing but darkness and rain. His navigator calls out positions using the GH equipment. On course, altitude 3,000 feet, airspeed 160 knots, approaching initial point in 30 seconds. Knights tightens his grip on the control yoke. This is it. This is where the deception truly begins. "Window operators, stand by," the flight engineer announces into the intercom. In the nose section, 2 crewmen crouch beside the chute, the first bundle of window in their hands. Each bundle contains approximately 2,000 individual strips of aluminum-coated paper, cut to 27 centimeters long and 1 centimeter wide. Collectively, the 16 Lancasters carry over 6 million strips, 60 tons of metallic chaff designed to deceive German radar. "Initial point, now," the navigator calls. "Commence window drop." The first bundle tumbles through the chute, bursting apart as it hits the slipstream. 2,000 aluminum strips scatter into the night, each one spinning and tumbling, each one reflecting radar waves back to the German stations at Cap d'Antifer and Fécamp. "15 seconds later, the second bundle drops, then the third, the fourth. The rhythm is mechanical, relentless. Knights flies the circuit exactly as briefed, heading 175 degrees toward the French coast, maintaining 3,000 feet altitude and 160 knots airspeed. For 150 seconds, Thumper Mick III advances toward France, its window operators dropping bundle after bundle. On German radar screens 20 miles south, new contacts appear, large, slow-moving, consistent with surface ships. At 02:15 hours, Knights executes his turn. The Lancaster banks smoothly through 180 degrees, now heading away from France for 130 seconds. The window operators continue their drops, maintaining the 15-second interval. When Knights turns again, the aircraft has advanced exactly 1 nautical mile closer to the French coast. From a German radar operator's perspective, the contact has moved at approximately 7 knots convoy speed. Behind Thumper Mick III, 15 more Lancasters execute identical circuits. They're spaced 2 miles apart along a 14-mile front parallel to the French coast. As they fly their patterns, advancing, turning, dropping window in perfect intervals, the cumulative effect on German radar is staggering. Not one ship, but dozens. Not a patrol, but an armada. At the German radar station near Cap d'Antifer, Obergefreiter Klaus Weber watches his scope with growing alarm. The contacts multiplied over the past 15 minutes, large signatures advancing in formation. He checks his calibration, suspecting equipment malfunction. But the signatures remain solid and persistent. He reaches for the telephone, connecting him to sector headquarters. Multiple surface contacts bearing 350 degrees, range 19 kilometers and closing. Count approximately 20 to 25 major vessels. The report climbs the chain of command. At 15th Army headquarters in Cambrai, staff officers examine the radar plot. An Allied fleet approaching Cap d'Antifer? This fits perfectly with intelligence predictions. The Pas-de-Calais invasion, the one they've been expecting for months, must be starting. Orders go out, coastal artillery to full alert, searchlights prepared, destroyer flotillas to investigate. But no destroyers leave port. The weather is too severe. The German Naval Command decides to wait until the contacts close to within gun range of the coastal batteries. It's a cautious decision that saves German ships from a fruitless search and allows the deception to continue unchallenged. Aboard HDML 1387, Lieutenant Fawcett hears the radio chatter intensify. German voice traffic, urgent but disciplined. They're reacting. The Phantom fleet is working. He glances at his watch. 0243 hours. Somewhere to the south, beyond his sight and hearing, thousands of Allied soldiers are approaching Normandy in the real invasion fleet. Every minute the Germans spend watching this section of coast, every gun battery that remains pointed at Cap d'Antifer instead of swiveling toward the actual beaches, every second of confusion and misdirection buys those soldiers a better chance of survival. "Maintain course and speed," Fawcett orders. The filbert balloon strains at its cables above him. The moonshine jammer fills the air with electronic noise, and overhead, invisible in the storm, 16 Lancasters continue their mechanical dance, dropping aluminum rain that appears as steel on German radar screens. The ghost armada advances, and on the real beaches, the real invasion draws closer with every passing second.